Yeah, buddy. Welcome to the Lifestyle Business Podcast.
Yeah, buddy, willkommen im Lebensstilgeschäft Podcast.
Hey, podcast listener, even if you are alone in your entrepreneurial pursuit, know that today, right now in your earbuds, you are joined by thousands of entrepreneurs all around the globe seeking to do the same thing you are. If you want to know more about this program or this podcast, or want to get barraged by a lot of annoying pop-ups, check out our website, lifestylebusinesspodcast.com.
Yeah, buddy. Happy Thursday morning. Welcome to the Lifestyle Business Podcast.
Sorry, go ahead. Shout out to my boy Ronnie Coleman.
Welcome to the podcast where we believe building a business is the best way to put more personal freedom and opportunity into your life, to install it into your life. Today I am joined by my co-host, my chancellor, the man who you heard a little earlier. He's also known as Ian von Bismarck.
You didn't hear from Ian von Bismarck, you heard from Ronnie Coleman.
If you guys stick around to the end of the show, you'll hear some of our top travel tips. These are the harder, and this is going to be a little bit of a fun episode. Ian, people saying, you guys are really heavy on the business side. Why don't we swing back and do a little bit of lifestyle stuff?
Yeah, this is called the Lifestyle Business Podcast, Dan. Why do we always have to talk about so much business?
That's right, man. I don't know who would have that kind of influence on the show. News, Ian, we've been doing a lot of travel, so we're going to bring this stuff up in the meats and potatoes. So let's just get started with the shouts and the reviews. TKR Money says on iTunes, this is the best podcast of all time and forever.
5 stars, baby.
5 stars, that's right. Mitchell from MitchellMD.com gave us a call. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Hey, Dan and Ian, it's Mitchell from MitchellMD.com. I've been listening to you guys for about the last 2 years, and I just have to say, I love all the golden nuggets of wisdom you guys share. I'd love to see some videos of where you guys are at and where you're headed next, and I wish you well, and I hope Rabies the cat is still around. I haven't heard him mentioned in any recent episodes. Take care, guys. Love the show.
All right, Ian, what's your response to Mitchell? Why don't you create more videos?
We're working on it. So just right before this podcast started, we took a little tour of our podcast studio this week, so we'll go ahead and put that up on the website. The reason we don't take more videos is because they're time intensive, I think.
Yeah.
Taking a lot of pictures, though. So when we went to Rome and Italy and now Berlin, took hundreds of pictures. So look for some of those on our upcoming podcast headers.
Yeah. I don't always want to be the guy who's like, oh, look at us, we're traveling around, because that's sort of the effect of having successfully run a business. So it all starts with the business. It should be the Business Lifestyle Podcast.
The Business Lifestyle Podcast.
All right, so check out that video. This is episode 152. And also, what happened to Rabies the cat? It's a little bit of a controversy, actually.
We're not exactly sure what happened to Rabies, but Rabies ran away and she didn't come back, which is, it was pretty uncommon that Rabies was alive and well for so long. Bali is not the place for street cats. So
right, but you were feeding her that gourmet food, man.
Yeah, it was expensive.
If you ever want Ian to open up the wallet, just put a cat within a 10-foot radius and he'll just go out and buy the best stuff. All right, let's get moving on to the meat and potatoes of this episode, or in Germany here, they call that the meat and potatoes.
Yes.
All right, we've got the 10 commandments of the 10 travel commandments. All right, that's what we're going to call this one?
Yes.
Get a little bit religious on it. All right, so we're going to talk about 10 concepts that have really helped us to enjoy travel more, to get more out of our travel experiences, and be relatively safe and stress-free.
Yeah, and these tips are, I think, from beginner to advanced. So one of the things that kind of spurred this conversation when we were thinking about this episode is we took our parents on a vacation, and they had never really traveled before.
Yeah,
and so
fresh. The ink was fresh on those passport stamps.
Very fresh, and so we learned a lot just from observing the way that they travel versus the way that we travel. We've been traveling for several years now.
Yeah, and it's cool because our parents took a lot of our advice. They kind of since they were coming into our domain, so to speak, they were really open to following our advice. And when they did, they saw the benefits of it, and it gave us a little bit of confidence. Like, hey, maybe we're onto something with some of these tips.
Right.
All right, so here they are. Number 1, thou shalt not roll.
And I think when you're talking about
this is like something our parents used to tell us, right?
Yeah. Thou shalt not roll luggage.
Yeah.
So we don't carry luggage that has wheels on it, with one exception. So I think there is a reason why you would want to carry rolling luggage, and that's if you're going to be one stop, right? If you're going to go to one destination only.
We would call it maybe structured travel. Like when we used to do business travel in the States, I roll. I roll back home, but I don't roll abroad. You said, for example, if you're going to be hitting up 3 locations in 1 month, you do not want to be rolling, right?
There's a lot of complications that come with rolling luggage. So, we're in Europe right now, so there's cobblestones everywhere. You're in and out of taxi cabs. You're walking up 4 flights of stairs because there's no elevator in some of these apartments.
Yeah.
And so it's really inconvenient to roll around these suitcases.
Yeah, especially when you don't have anything sorted. Like when we got here, we didn't have our Airbnb contact direct. So we went from a mixture of taxi to walking to sitting in a cafe for a while to then finally meeting up. You don't want to be this person who, looks like you just got off the airplane. If you have to have it on your back, you're going to keep it tight, right?
Right.
Which is the whole thing of traveling light. And so basically our basic setup is a day pack on our backs. Like we're using a North Face Surge still currently. And if you have more stuff, if you have a shoe collection, for example, you could go with a medium-sized pack. And then also we both have business bags.
Right.
So these business bags can supplement if you need to put a little bit of extra clothes in them.
Right. And you're thinking, how am I going to fit all this stuff into my day pack? Well, we're going to get into that in the next couple points.
All right. Point number 2, thou shalt leave 20% left in your bag. This can be a tough one to follow.
Yes, very tough. And actually, I broke this rule. This is probably the one rule that I break all the time. But there's a lot of different reasons why you want to leave 20% in your bag. The first reason is speed for packing.
Yeah, I mean, it's stressful to have to play the ultimate game of Tetris.
Yes.
You want to be able to just toss the stuff in your bag, do a basic fold job, and it's this stress-free element of just packing that bag and getting out the door.
Because here's what happened. I'm in my apartment, right, in San Diego. I'm packing for a trip. I pack everything perfectly. I've got tons of time, right? And everything is folded perfectly. It goes in my bag and it fits, and I'm 100% full. Now, what happens when you have to dig through that bag for TSA, or what happens when you open it up for the first time? It never goes back exactly the same way.
It's like one of those jackets that folds up on itself. You open it up, it's like poof, it pops up to like 10 times the size,
Right.
You don't want that. So a couple concepts that go along with this is, I used to get excited about consuming things and purchasing things. And now that my lifestyle has changed a little bit, I'm scared to buy stuff. But now I get this new high and excitement from leaving stuff behind. A lot of people are like, oh, I can't let that pair of jeans behind or whatever. It's like, hey, don't kid yourself. There's millions of pairs of jeans on this planet, And so it's kind of it's this liberating feeling to be able to leave stuff behind. And then that's combined with this concept of getting stuff there.
Right.
If you're going someplace cold, you don't necessarily need to pack all that stuff with you. You can just get a jacket when you get on the ground.
Yes, it's very common for us to do that, to get someone and say, hey, we need a jacket. We did this in Paris. You walked in, you bought a 30 euro jacket.
Yeah.
Spending 30 euros is much better than taking up half of your pack,
Yeah.
right? And the other thing that I think is worth mentioning on this, and we actually didn't write this down, but one of the things that I do in my pack is I inventory before I leave. So I know that I have 10 shirts, I have 10 pairs of underwear, I have 10 pairs of socks. And so I know what that number is, and that's really important because, as you know, Dan, doing laundry in Asia, a lot of times they lose your stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really good to be able to know how many shirts you have, so when you pick up all your laundry at the laundromat, you can say, hey, I'm missing one.
You also want to know how many clean days you have left. We've been here 6 days. It means I got 4 to go. Maybe I should double up on this pair
I
of
see
jeans.
we're in the same shirt twice, then I'm like, well, he's getting to the end of the rope.
That's right, man. Hey, number 3, use Airbnb. Man, you are an Airbnb fanatic, and you've been scoring us some insane places. We stayed in both Paris and Rome. We stayed in some of the top neighborhoods. Here we're in the hipster neighborhood, obviously.
Yes.
These places are an excellent value. What's the strategy for using Airbnb?
One of the problems that I'm finding with Airbnb actually is that a lot of the providers aren't updating their calendars.
Right.
And so Airbnb is becoming a time sink actually. So when we booked the places in Rome, in France, and in Berlin, we had to write a lot of emails to figure out if places were available.
Right.
So I guess my approach with Airbnb these days is the shotgun approach. So I say, hey, I'm Ian. I'm a business guy, so it doesn't look like I'm partying, right? So I'm doing business in Berlin. I would love to stay in your place. It looks great. Is it available these dates? And then I'll send out like 20 or 30 of those emails, so I don't get too picky,
Right.
Whereas in the beginning I got picky, like this is perfect location, this is a perfect apartment. Can't really do that anymore with Airbnb, I've found. So
I'm going to do a scumbag Ian meme that says he's a business guy, parties anyway.
yeah, exactly. So Airbnb, there's a couple tips and tricks. I don't think it's worth getting into, but I do think Airbnb is a great value because in most places, Paris maybe being the exception, you can find Airbnb places for cheaper than you can find hotels.
Booyah. All right. So point number 4, this is sort of the genesis of our 10 commandments. Okay, I'm mixing my mixing my religious metaphors up here. It doesn't matter. Anyway, first 30 minutes in the country. What should be your priority? What should you focus on? Here's the thing. As you heard at the top of the show, we've got Google Translate, which is an excellent app, only works on data. There's one more app that's more important than that, Google Maps. Google Maps makes us so much more efficient.
Can you imagine walking around these days with a map? I mean, there's no blue dot on the physical map,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
I can't get anywhere.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine going back to the tourist maps. So the punchline here is that your first 30 minutes on the ground ought to be focused on getting yourself a SIM card. You need to have the unlocked phone with a data plan. It's a game changer for travelers. So get that unlocked Galaxy or iPhone and get yourself into a phone store. That should be your first priority. Also, this is something you should Google before you get on the airplane, because if you don't have service when you get on the ground, you want to know how to activate that card. And once you've got data set up on your phone, you are ultimately empowered. You've got Google Translate, you've got Google Maps. So that's the first priority.
So there's a couple of things. I'm imagining myself getting off the airplane, right? And right when I get off the airplane, I should have saved some screenshots to tell the taxi driver to figure out how to get on the train to get to where I'm going.
Yes.
Right?
So this is a hack that I do, which is I'll identify something on my phone, and then if you hit the big button on the iPhone and then the top right button, you take a screenshot.
Right.
So I'm saving things to my photos. Sometimes I'll even take pictures of my computer screen of the important things, like this is my address. This is the phone number of my landlord. So those things don't depend on data service. Or I'm putting them in my Evernote. So you don't want to show up on the ground and be like, all the information's in my email. That's a rookie move. So that's number one. Number two is it's often good to nail those first phrases. It's going to depend on which country you're going to. But in France, for example, it's very important that you know the phrase, I'm sorry I don't speak French. Do you speak English? It's going to depend, of course, on every country, but you want to know how to say thank you, please, I'm sorry I don't speak your language, do you speak English? 9 times out of 10, they're going to say a little bit. If people don't want to speak, when people are sort of against speaking with you in English, it's not because they're not friendly, it's always because they're nervous.
Right.
Most people know just a little bit of English.
Yep.
So if you enter in with their language and say, désolé, I don't speak the français, monsieur, would you please parlez-vous some anglais in my direction? Yeah, and then that works out. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So number 5, thou shalt not wish away travel time. I see this as a big distinction between more advanced travelers and people who are just getting started.
It's the question that you get. Oh yeah, you're going to Berlin. Well, isn't that a 15-hour flight?
Yeah, it's the everything's amazing and no one cares. I mean, the benefits of travel, of getting on that airplane, of going through the international travel system, so to speak, is so huge. And what we're really talking about here is presence. If you become a traveler, you're going to spend a lot of time in airports, taxis, etc. That's a great opportunity for you to listen to audiobooks on Audible. It's a great opportunity for you to catch up on your Instapaper and read all those great blog posts that you haven't read. It's a great opportunity to reflect on your life and to enjoy the experience. So don't wish away that time, which is what a lot of entry-level I just got to get on a 20-hour flight. I mean, that's 20 hours of your life. Yeah, your life is pretty sweet.
Yeah, me and you, we have some rituals, right? I like to do some reading. I like to do some listening to the podcast. One of my main things is I'm going to organize. Every time I get on a plane, I organize my desktop.
Yep.
That's just one of the things that I do.
Turn down all the brightness on your devices. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that your screen brightness is one of the biggest drainers of your battery.
Yeah, on your iPhone and your MacBook.
Yeah.
You can generally get twice the life. So the first thing, you're right, the first thing that I do when I leave for travel or when I get on that airplane is I turn everything down to the minimum brightness, because you never know when the next
I can
time
always
you're gonna
tell
see a
when we
plug
land
is.
too. You're showing me your Google Maps and I can hardly see it in the sunlight. I'm come on, man, you're just getting stingy with that battery.
A plug's in sight. Right?
All right, number 6, download Pro HDR and Camera Plus to your smartphone or the equivalent applications. Don't walk away from now that you've got a smartphone, which is an entry-level thing for a location-independent entrepreneur, take some great photos. I was just standing on top of the Sacré-Cœur the other day and just taking random photos like I always do. I'm just sort of a volume approach, quality by volume. And by putting that photo into Camera Plus, it turned it sort of got it closer to what my eye saw there. Whereas back in the day, I used to travel and I would have all these photos that were just sort of subpar. They didn't really bring home the experience.
Right.
And I just think that's an important thing. It should be a priority. If you're going to be snapping photos, remember it in a brilliant way and share it with your friends in a brilliant way. So Camera Plus, Pro HDR, it's a no-brainer. It's $4 away from getting that true experience into your smartphone.
Yeah, and I think the iPhone 5 is really the first phone that I've carried that can take really good pictures, you know? I mean, the iPhone 4, it was like great, but the iPhone 5, it's like almost professional quality.
Absolutely. Number 7, book a tour, book a tour, book a tour.
I was really against this before I did it. I figured like, I had this whole, there was a stigma for me around like being a tourist.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was like, well, I don't want to do touristy things. I don't want to go on tours. Turns out
Scumbag Ian. I don't want to be a tourist, goes touring.
we probably did six or 7 tours when we were in Rome and Italy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the focus of every day.
It was amazing. And this is really just another form of outsourcing and finding points of leverage. I mean, look, I don't know anything about Rome. So I took Jody Ettenberg's advice, who gives us all kinds of awesome advice. And she says, you know, this tour company called Walks of Italy does these great tours. They do a food tour, they do a catacombs tour, they do a Colosseum tour. It's like
we did all of them. By the way.
We did all of them. And here's the cool thing: is these people are passionate. They aren't just kids off the street who are looking for a couple extra euros. This is a high quality tour company. These are people who are passionate about Roman history, and they get to share it with people. These are people that are passionate about cheese and wine and meat. When we went on the food tour, I mean, how long would it have taken us to identify? It would have taken us 6 months of living in Rome.
Right. And these are local people too. So the best part about it is you can ask their suggestions about where to eat, what to do. You know, do you want to hang out later? I mean, these are very cool people.
First thing on the ground here in Berlin for the DCers, I called up the top tourism company, the people with the best reputation, also an American entrepreneur, and I said, hey, can we get a private tour for DCers? We're interested in history. Can you please show us what we should see in Berlin? I mean, that's going to make our experience so much richer than if we just did the old, let's walk around with the tourist map and get a couple coffees and see what's what. I mean, So it really just, it helps you to make the most of your limited time in these amazing places.
Yeah, and even if you, I think most of our tours were 3 hours or something like that. So it really left us a whole day.
Yeah. It was amazing. It's a great experience. So we challenged our assumptions on what being a tourist is all about and came out like winners on the back end. And our parents think we're cool. Yeah. Number 8, do your homework.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, so look, not all airlines are created equal. The other day, me and you got strapped with a big euro fee because we showed up at the gate with bags that we couldn't bring onto the airline.
Right. So in the United States, I know how Southwest works. I know how American works. I know how all these companies work. I know how Asia Airlines works, right? Because I'm very used to doing business with these companies. Turns out EasyJet and Ryanair do business much differently. You show up, you've got 2 bags, they only take 1.
Yep.
You got to pay a hefty fee. So, you know, that's just one example, but do your homework in terms of things like this. I think
also your points, right? So we're looking at stuff like, you know, before you go on an airline, check out flyertalk.com.
Yeah.
See what people have to say about it. Go to seatguru.com. If you're going to select a seat, if you're on a 737, what's the best seat? You know, you're 5 minutes away from figuring out what some of the these pro travelers believe is the best seat. You know, they've got all kinds of cool rationales behind it. If you get on the plane faster, if the certain lavatories on certain airplanes are busier than others.
Are there taxis in the area that you're visiting? Is it a flat rate from the airport to the center of the city?
Absolutely. So do your homework on this stuff. Seatguru.com, flyertalk.com, thepointsguy.com. When you're going to transfer those points from your Platinum Amex card like Ian and I do, make sure that you take advantage of the moments when they're giving 35% bonuses or whatever. So you want to make the most out of those points that you were hard earned.
Right.
All right. Number 9. This is thou shalt not lose your ass on money transactions.
Yeah, it's been interesting. So we each brought a little bit of cash over to Europe, just kind of a situational thing for us. And so we were tasked with trying to find money changers. And it was kind of an exciting prospect because this isn't something that I usually do.
We felt like gangsters.
Yeah, I felt like a mobster. But generally what people are saying these days is take your cash out of the ATM because it's generally the best rates. Generally. And so I don't think a lot of people mess around with these money changers anymore.
But if you do, the published rates are not the rates that you should get. So the website is ex.com, right?
XC or EX, something. I mean, it's basically what the global exchange rate is. And so a lot of times you'll run
XC.com,
XC. You'll run into these money changers and they'll have a different published rate.
And you can negotiate with them.
You can. Sometimes they're not, like we went into the American Express money exchanger in Rome, and they're non-negotiable. Although we did have other benefits because we're platinum card holders. But in Paris, the guy was willing to negotiate with us a little bit.
Right.
So just be very careful. These guys are in the business of potentially ripping you off. So if you
especially
have to
in third
money,
world countries.
Oh yeah.
Especially. So Charles Schwab, of course, famously offers no ATM fees on their international checking accounts.
That's correct. Their high yield checking accounts, they will actually refund you for the ATM fees.
Number 10, trust your instincts on what you love. This whole concept of a must-see kind of thing, I just want to revolt against that a little bit.
Once in a lifetime, baby.
I love things like history. I love things like business. And so, our friend Tommy loves things like surfing. I thought it was so cool when he explained to us that he learned Indonesian vis-a-vis surfing with other Indonesians. And that's really plugged him into the culture in a unique way. When I go places, I love to do business. I love to meet up with factory agents. I love to meet up with local bloggers that I found on the internet. People who have the same set of practices and interests. I find that I get plugged in deeper when I focus on the things I'm truly interested in, rather than just, let's go to this art gallery. It's like, I don't look at art galleries back home. Why am I going to look at art gallery when I come here?
Well, I think there's a lot of pressure. So when you say that you're going to Paris, you have to come back and explain to your friends.
I did look at the art gallery, by the way. The Musée d'Orsay was amazing.
You have to explain to all your friends, like, did you go to the Louvre? Did you do this? Did you do that? And if you're like, look, man, my thing is just like hanging out in cafes and people watching, that's okay, right? I don't think you have to go to Paris and you have to see all this stuff. For us, I always carry this maximum in my head. Like, I'm probably going to come back to this place again at some point in my life. Like, I don't view a lot of travel, because I travel so much, as like once in a lifetime opportunities. And I think if you frame it up that way, and that's the way I frame it up, a lot of times you don't feel like you have to do everything. Just do what you love. So
the only thing you must do is, besides booking a tour and not rolling, is stay true to yourself.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. All right. We hope that you enjoy your travel adventures as much as we enjoyed ours, man. It's just an extreme privilege to be able to roll around like this. I always dreamed about this kind of thing. So,
and when you say roll around, you mean carry around.
That's right. All right, let's get moving on to just the tips. All right, a couple of quick things. At the beginning of the episode, you heard Google Translate. I mean, the quality of Google Translate is amazing.
It is.
And so you can just talk into it using Siri. So you got to have your data hooked up and say, like, say you have to go to a pharmacy and get something and you can't read the labels on the wall. So you can literally just talk into it and say, I have a pain in my right knee and I want some anti-inflammatory medicine, and then just hit boom, and it just translates and you actually speak it to the person. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think up to 100 characters. And you can also save phrases in there. So this is for when you're offline. So when you're online, you speak a bunch of phrases in there, you star them, and then you save them, and then you can regurgitate them out.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry, I don't speak Italian, so I'm using my smartphone. Right. Also, since you guys are going to be taking such amazing photos while you're on the road, I use this little piece of software on my iPhone called PicStitch, and it allows you to make collages. And it's really cool.
Hipster.
I found that people on Facebook, my family, my friends, they love to see the little collages that you make of, like, here's a day I went for a walk in Paris, and here's a baguette, and then here's a picture of the Eiffel Tower. And it's a really fun way to take those amazing pictures you're making in Camera Plus and make a cool little product out of it.
Virtual scrapbooking.
That's exactly it. It's like the new, okay, forget it. It's hip. All right, today we're going to play you out with the new record from one of my favorite rock bands. I love Paramore, and they did deliver on their newest record. This one's called Ankle Biters. I just love that insistent pop. The lead singer of Paramore has an amazing voice, and it's good motivation.
Yeah, buddy.